I'm not getting sucked in. I promise. I'm not getting sucked in. 100%. I'm not getting sucked in. Just as long as we're clear on that. All right? As long as we're clear. I'm not getting sucked in. I'm just curious as to how they worded it. I assume they worded it as like a really, really good thing. Mayhaps. Mayhaps. Yeah, I saw this morning. Development preview, cross-faction instances. For years now, many people have questioned whether the rules restricting communication and cooperation between Alliance and Horde need to be so absolute. The faction divide could keep close friends from playing together, or cause players to feel that their faction leaves them with fewer opportunities to pursue their favorite group content, Alliance. But these downsides have long been justified in order to preserve a central element of the Warcraft universe. It all began with a game titled Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, right? But to quote a one-time war chief of the Horde, times change. I'm pleased to announce that we are working on adding the ability for Alliance and Horde players to form pre-made parties together for dungeons, raids, and rated PvP. There have been 2 decades worth of code and content crafted with the assumption that the parties can only have players of a single faction, and while we want to make this feature available as soon as possible, the extent of the change means that it couldn't really be in time for Eternity's End's content update. Instead, we are planning to test and release it as part of a subsequent 0.25. We're eager to hear your feedback about the details we're sharing today and on the details of our implementation when this feature becomes available to the PTR following Eternity's End. In crafting the rule set for this new feature, we are guided by 2 goals. The focus on instance gameplay. Dungeons, raids, and rated PvP have been at the center of the most compelling arguments for relaxing the faction divide. This is content that by definition requires a pre-made group, and the social barriers will have the greatest negative impact on people's ability to access these experiences on their preferred terms. Make this an opt-in feature as much as possible. In terms of in-world fiction and player preferences, there are decades of animosity to overcome. While we are excited to offer players the choice to reach across the faction divide and cooperate to overcome common foes, we know that there are many who will react warily to this change, and we don't want to override those preferences. This is about increasing options for players. There's nobody not opting into this, besides like the most dedicated RPer in the world. I prefer longer queues to stick to my faction values. These guidelines led us to the following system. Okay, this is how this is going to work. What's the communication going to be like? Players will be able to directly invite members of the opposite faction to a party if you have a battle tag or real ID friendship. If you are a member of a cross-faction WoW community. Pre-made groups in the group finder listings for mythic dungeons, raids, or rated arenas BGs will be open to applicants of both factions, though the group leader may choose to restrict the listing to same faction applicants if they choose. Sure. Guilds will remain single faction, and random match-made activities like heroic dungeons, skirmishes, or random battlegrounds will all remain same faction, both because there is less faction-driven pressure about random groups and to avoid compromising the opt-in nature. Once in a party together, members of the opposite faction will remain unfriendly while in the outdoor world, and fully hostile in war mode, oh Jesus, as they do today, though they will be able to communicate through party chat. Upon entering a dungeon raid or rated PvP match, however, all members will be friendly and able to assist each other in combat, trade loot, earn shared achievements, and otherwise fully cooperate the same way members of the same faction have always been able to do. A major goal in announcing this feature in advance is to make sure we're capturing all the expectations and requirements for this to be a smooth experience. A group raiding, doing M+ keys, or chasing higher PvP ratings should be able to operate seamlessly whether they're in the same faction or cross-faction group. This functionality will also apply to legacy instances and is available at all levels, though there will be several older instances that cross-faction parties cannot enter, at least for now. Battle of Dazar'alor, Trial of the Crusader, Icecrown Citadel, remember the gunship battle, and a handful of others that similarly have extensive faction-specific components that will have to be reworked to support cross-faction parties. You'd think it would just adjust itself to whoever has the majority or whoever the raid leader is, right? There are likely those who have read this far with some unease, worried that this is chipping away at a foundational principle of Warcraft. At BlizzCon 2019, when an attendee asked about cross-faction play, we responded at the time, Alliance and Horde separation is a pillar of what makes Warcraft Warcraft. But upon reflection, that's an oversimplification. Alliance and Horde identity is what is fundamental to Warcraft. And while at times the identity has been one of division and open conflict, we've seen Alliance and Horde finding common ground and working together ever since Warcraft 3. Notably including the last time a Warcraft chapter was named Eternity's End, and the instances of cooperation in World of Warcraft itself are too numerous to count. We're hopeful that these changes will serve to actually strengthen faction identity by allowing more players to play the faction whose value, aesthetic, and characters they find more compelling, rather than feeling forced to choose between their personal preference and ability to play with friends. Following the events of Battle for Azeroth, the Alliance and Horde are poised in an uneasy armistice. The factions still stand apart, and even as some of their leaders cooperate in the Shadowlands, countless members of each faction will neither forgive nor forget the wartime actions of the other. For every Jaina, there is a Gen, and that seems unlikely to change anytime soon. But why shouldn't players be able to make that choice for themselves meaningful? Especially in cooperative settings where the story revolves around coming together to overcome dire threats. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback on this feature. This is great. This is really, really good. This is great. I have no issues with this. This is fine. This is fine. I wonder what the player base is like, numbers-wise. Gotta be low. Gotta be low. I mean, you can't go back. Once you've done this, that's it. It's done, right? There's no going back from this once it's done. I mean, it's got to be pretty low. I mean, to do this, it's got to be pretty low. It's got to be pretty low. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be pretty low, which is fine because they're making changes, right? They're making changes. Me and Chris talked about this a little bit this morning, but their hubris has been so ridiculous for so long. That's maybe the surge of FF14 is the best thing that could have happened to World of Warcraft. Mayhaps it's the best thing that could have ever happened to them. But this is great. This is good. This is fun. I'm totally fine with this. This is cool. I hope this opens the door for some really big, cool raids with multi-guilds. Like some 40-mans and things like that. That would be sick. Because you have access to everybody. Like some really big story stuff that involves both factions. That would be awesome. That would be really cool. If the game can handle it. WoW saved FF? Well, I mean, that's fine if that happens. And WoW is dead, finally. Yeah, there it is. What's the first comment? That is big news, unexpected. There you have it. Well, game's dead. Finally. I can finally be a dwarf. Best news ever. Yeah, I wonder if there'll be I mean, your guild still remains faction only, but I mean, I would have some alliance characters that I could play with my friends with. I would totally do that if I played World of Warcraft, but I would totally do that. I'd absolutely 100% do that. Yeah, I would totally do that. That's cool. I could dig it. I could dig it.